Welcome to the explainer. You know, what if some of the most mysterious parts of an ancient text weren't just words? What if they were actually a hidden code, just waiting for someone to crack it? See, for centuries now, there's been this mystery. At the very beginning of 29 specific chapters of the Quran, you find these strange, disconnected letters. And they've been puzzling scholars and, well, pretty much everyone who reads them for a very, very long time. Now, they have a name for these. In Arabic, they're called the Muqatta'at, which literally means the disconnected letters. You pronounce them when you read, but here's the thing. For more than 1,000 years, their actual meaning has been one of the biggest puzzles in all of Islamic scholarship. So today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating and, yeah, pretty complex theory that says these letters aren't random at all. Instead, it suggests they form this intricate numerical and structural code. We'll start with the puzzle itself. Look at the first patterns, the key numbers that pop up, how it all might fit into a grand system, and finally, ask, what's the whole point? All right, so let's start with the puzzle itself. Now, there are a ton of traditional interpretations out there, right? Some say they're abbreviations, others that they're just sounds meant to grab your attention. But the theory we're digging into today, it takes a completely different path. Yeah, this theory suggests these letters are way more than just symbolic. It proposes they're actual keys to a deliberate, mathematical system, one that's woven right into the very fabric of the text structure. Okay, so how would you even begin to test an idea like this? Well, the people who support this theory, they point to something they call pola, which is the Indonesian word for patterns. And these patterns, they say, start to pop out when you look at the chapter numbers where these letters show up. Let's take a look at the first example they put forward. They call it Pola 237, and it's all about the chapter numbers of 3 very specific surahs, or chapters, that just so happen to start with the exact same set of these mysterious letters. Okay, so here's how it works. You take the chapter numbers, 2, 3, and 7. First, you multiply them together. 2 times 3 times 7, that gives you 42. But now here's the really crucial part. The theory has these specific rules for reducing the number. In this case, the digits of 42 are somehow used to create a new number, 16, which then reduces down to 7. The whole claim hinges on this idea that this very specific reduction method is a key to unlocking the system. And that number, 7, that's supposedly a cornerstone of this whole code. Just keep that number in mind because we are definitely coming back to it. Of course, one pattern doesn't make a system, right? That could just be a coincidence. So let's look at another one they point to, called Paula 1729. This one uses a totally different group of chapters. So this time, we're taking chapters 7, 13, and 19. You multiply those together and you get that famous taxi cab number, 1729. Now for this pattern, the theory uses a different reduction rule. It's a simple digit sum. So you just add them up. 1 plus 7 plus 2 plus 9, that's 19. Then 1 plus 9 is 10. And finally, 1 plus 0 gives you. So for the people who believe in this theory, this is a big deal. The idea that a completely different set of chapters, using a different but still consistent rule, points to another one of these key numbers, in this case, the number 1, well, they say that's evidence of a deliberate design. So as you start to decode these different patterns, you see this small group of numbers showing up over and over again. You could call them the prime suspects behind the code. The theory claims that the entire system is built around these key numbers. And according to the theory, these aren't just random numbers. No, they're like the vocabulary of the code. The number 7 is supposed to represent completeness. 13 is the number of unique letter combinations you find in all these special chapters. 9 stands for repetition, and 1 for unity. Then the theory points to something really fascinating, a potential key that's supposedly been hiding in plain sight this whole time in a totally different chapter. We're talking about Surah 73, verse 3. Okay, check this out. The idea is you take the chapter number, 73, and you put the verse number, 3, right next to it. They call this concatenation. So you get the number 733. And what happens when you do a digit sum on that number? 7 plus 3 plus 3, it equals 13. That's one of the core numbers of the system we were just talking about. Look, these individual patterns are interesting for sure, but the theory's biggest claim is that they all lock together like puzzle pieces into one giant, unified system. So let's zoom out now and look at the bigger picture across all 29 of those chapters that have these mysterious letters. So,
When the people behind this theory analyze the whole set of 29 chapters, they find these huge, large-scale numbers that also seem to point back to those key digits. For instance, if you add up all 29 of the chapter numbers, you get 822, which reduces down to 3. Then there's something called the total abject sum. That's from an old system where every letter has a number value. That big sum, 3,203, reduces down to 8. The argument is, how can all these big totals also reduce down so neatly? They say it's more proof of a cohesive system. And it's not just about the numbers. The theory also points to these really deep structural patterns. Get this. Surah 29, which is one of these special chapters, sits at the exact structural middle of the first 57 chapters of the Quran. That kind of perfect placement, well, they present that as another layer of this code.
And that wasn't just a one-off fluke. This whole pattern of structural centrality, of being in the exact middle, it happens again and again for other special chapters within different ranges. It's almost like a signature, reinforcing this idea of a deliberate architectural design. So this brings us to the big one, the final and maybe the most important question of all. Let's say for a minute that this whole intricate system of numbers and structures is real. So what? What's the purpose? What is its function? Well, the theory suggests it's not just one thing. It's like they have multiple overlapping jobs. First, they act as a numerical system to tie all the chapters together. Second, they're like structural signposts, highlighting important positions and themes. And finally, they act as this profound mark of divine mystery, a kind of challenge, saying, look, this text is built from simple letters, just like yours, but it has a complexity that's beyond human ability.
So, where does that leave us? What do we make of all this? Is it really evidence of some kind of divine blueprint hidden in plain sight for all this time? Or is it just a powerful testament to our own remarkable human minds and our ability to find meaningful patterns, even where there might only be chance?
Ultimately, whether it's a divinely inspired code or a fascinating coincidence, it is an absolutely incredible lens to look at an ancient text through. And it really leaves you thinking about that very thin, very profound line between pattern and purpose.